when you are practicing love and kindness, it becomes this ultra strength that you can have with people because of the fact that true leaders, what they do is they make people feel like they matter.
Hello and welcome to episode 130 of the Smart Agents Podcast. My name is Michael Walter and I'll be your host. In today's episode, we are joined by Skye Michiels, Head of Agent Development for Compass Real Estate. Throughout our conversation, Skye shares his thoughts on how the 2023 real estate market will play out, how the role of the agent has evolved over the last few years, and actionable tips for those looking to grow into successful leaders of their own. In addition, Skye hosts a 6 a.m.ers club where the focus is on personal happiness and growth in order to be the best version of yourself when serving others. Now, before we get on to today's featured interview, make sure to subscribe to the Smart Agents Podcast. You can find the show on all major podcasting platforms such as Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, and now Amazon Music. Also, if you or someone else on your team has an incredible story or tip to share with our community, send us a message at feedback@smartagents.com. We're always on the lookout for new stories to share. All right, let's get on to today's featured interview with Skye Michiels. This is really one of my favorite conversations I've had on the show in the past 2.5 years. And if you're interested in hearing more, I've added a link to his podcast, the 6 a.m.ers podcast, in the episode description. So yeah, the way I like to start everything out is if you can just introduce yourself to us a little bit, who you are and what you do.
Yeah, so thank you so much for having me on. So my name is Skye Michiels. My current role is I'm the head of agent development for Compass Real Estate nationally. My 30-second real estate background, I was 20 years ago, I was a high school history teacher, and I realized very quickly I was poor. So I had to get a little side gig. So I got a job I became a realtor just as a little side gig. And I like my career trajectory because I've done everything from being a part-time agent, full-time individual with admin, small team, large team. I helped launch a market center for KW here in the city of Philadelphia. And then I took over as managing director for Compass when we launched in Philadelphia in 2018. And then this past year, I became the head of agent development. So what's great is I'm full circle now. I'm back to being a teacher.
That's awesome. Yeah, no, that's great. And I think, with all of your experience is, being able to train these newer agents and kind of get them through. I mean, obviously had some crazy years the past few years, but over the course of your experience, you've seen some ups and downs to help people get through that.
For sure. And it's been great, I think, to be able to have gone through 2008 and then gone through the last couple of years and now having this little recession that we're currently in. And having the knowledge of history, right, that in 2008 was a vastly different situation than what we're in now. What we're in now is a little bit more of a market correction, and honestly, we needed to calm things down. Yeah. I predict, and once again, anyone that predicts a market is going to say, if they don't say, I have no idea what's going on, first up, I'm going to tell you, I have no idea if this is going to be right or not. But from all of my experience and also in interacting with some really high level economists, we actually interviewed one today. And all the data right now is pointing to the fact that the fourth quarter seemed like to be the bottom of the market. And we have a really big groundswell. Think about how many people aged 31 to 35 over the last 2.5 years did not buy a home, or if they did buy a home before 2019, 2020, are probably debating getting that next home, upselling, right? Getting the upgrade. Think of how many people over the last 2 years needed to downsize, but because of all the craziness going on, did not. So my theory is that there's a lot of energy in the market that's building. Visualize you're in the ocean and there's a wave coming and you feel it before you actually see it. That's what it feels like a little bit in the market. And I've been traveling across the country, teaching and training Compass agents. And the overwhelming sentiment is the fact that there is energy in the market. Big open houses, starting to see some multiple bids, a lot of people reaching out, an increase in lead generation where they're seeing responses, et cetera. So I really predict 2023 could be a really, really healthy market for the agent who is willing to actually do the work and be that advisor, consultant, and professional that we hopefully are.
Right. Absolutely. And I have to imagine that's something that through, the agent training and the recruiting of agents, that's a big thing that you're looking for. That's a big quality of the person that you're looking for, is that advisor and the person that's there to be a resource for their clients.
That's right. Well, and I think we're seeing this in the marketplace right now. I think we have two different types of agents. We have the transactional agent, the person that is in their client's life for the transaction. And then we have the agent for life, so to speak, or the full-time real estate advisor and consultant. And that's really the agent that I coach to, is the person that's looking. The transaction is just a small piece of what they do. It's really about developing those really deep relationships and really treating people like human beings and knowing what their likes are, what their dislikes are, what their needs are beyond the transaction. And the transaction is just sort of, like I said, it's part of what the role is, and all the other things that sort of extend beyond that. So I think that's what we're seeing. So be in that role, you constantly have to be getting better, be training, be learning, be improving, leveraging technology, to use technology in a really, really powerful way to make you better, and to make you more human as well.
Right. Yeah. And I think that's really interesting. You said just making technology to make you more human. It's kind of funny. It's like it's almost like juxtaposing on each other, but because of the way technology is now, I mean, a few years ago, we're I'm in Florida, you're in Philadelphia. Setting something like this up would have been so difficult to be able to see each other. And it's great. I mean, we've been doing these Zoom calls for years now, and I love it.
Yeah. Well, and I love giving people very actionable tactics that they can use. And let me give you 3 ways technology can actually make you more human. The first one I'm going to give you is social media. Now, a lot of us, we think of social media, we think of us having to provide content. I'm going to give you a concept I'm going to call reverse social media. And reverse social media is actually where you connect as a human being, where you're using your CRM or whatever data management tool that you have. You look up the relationships that are really important to you, your past clients, your family, your friends, and you immediately go to their social media and you reverse it, right? Instagram, Facebook, they control who we see, but they can't control who we go and we look at and interact with. So we're going to reverse social media. And then what it does, it allows me to see insight into what's happening in someone's life. So when I reach out to them, I'm creating human connection by saying, I just ran across you on Instagram. And congrats on the new baby, or congrats on the new job, or, oh, I see you took a vacation in Florida. I'm heading down there in a month with my family. I can't wait. How was it? Any recommendations? All of a sudden now we're creating these human connections using social media to make us more human. So that's one example. A second example is video. At Compass, we have something called Video Studio where, literally on your phone, you can access it. I can create a video message like this. So when you create video is a really great tool to create conversations or to create connection. And you could use video on social media, but really when I communicate, imagine the day you get a contract signed with your buyer, instead of just emailing it to them or texting it to them, you send them a video message. And in a video message, I see my humanity come out in a really, really powerful way. And the third way is the ability to separate the noise that we have as realtors of thousands of contacts that are in our database. We need to be able to separate those out, and good technology allows you to identify the most important relationships to us versus the thousands that we have in our database. And that overwhelms most agents. So those are 3 actionable ways. You got to create with the CRM, you got to create a category of who is your in connection, in community with you.
Right. By, creating these human connections with people, I have to imagine that really helps out agents and their, just the flow of their business through changing markets, because you have built these relationships with people to where they know who you are. If, the market's a little bit difficult, they're still going to be reaching out to you because you're the person that they've really built that trust with.
That's right. Exactly. And I think I think in the previous 2 years in some of the crazy markets, like the role of the agent became a little diminished, we'll say, or it was not
Right.
as important because the market forces were so, unless you're on the buy
Right.
side, it really became
Yeah.
relevant. On the sell side, you were putting up a listing and it was selling in multiple bids.
Mhm.
What we're seeing now in this little recession that we're currently in, and I think in this next year, the skill of the agent is going to be a major factor in the success of the transaction. And the more skilled, the more knowledgeable, the more you have at your disposal, and the more you can create a difference between what I do and what the rest of the marketplace does to elevate the process, the more successful I'm going to be as a real estate agent. So I highly recommend every agent that's out there right now, while there is a little bit of a lull, you need to be diving headfirst into improving your skill as a realtor, your knowledge, and your systems.
Right. So, kind of switching gears a little bit, I want to talk to you about, and it's got to be something that you look for and you're training for, is new leadership and bringing people into leadership positions. So, tell me a little bit about, what you are looking for in a person to kind of start being able to lead a team and to be able to kind of, take on a little bit more of that responsibility.
Yeah. I'm really passionate about this topic. I think it is a topic we don't really teach often. It's something
Right.
we try to teach here at Compass is leadership. And one of the key things that when I'm teaching about leadership, the very best quality of a leader is someone who takes extreme ownership.
Mhm.
Meaning, and I borrowed this term from Jocko Willink, who's a
Right.
famous motivational speaker.
Yes.
He's a great book out there. So it's not my term, but I use it every single day. And extreme ownership does not mean you take this thing where everything is your fault and I'm a victim and like, oh no, no, like I'll take care of it. Extreme ownership means that you are always examining your role in the success or failure of anything that you're doing, and you take ownership of it. So if something goes wrong on your team, it doesn't mean you fall on the sword and say, oh, it's all my fault, it's all my fault. It means you take ownership of saying, hey, let me look at myself in the mirror and own my role in this. You know what? I didn't really create a system to help this new agent process that deal. I didn't really do the proper training. I was not as present as I should have been in their first transaction, as an example, right? So that's number one is extreme ownership. Number two is a quality I call high confidence, low ego. As a leader, you want to have a lot of confidence, but you want to have low ego, meaning I can go take out the trash, set the table, do any role, but I have a lot of confidence in everything that I'm doing as well. And it's a dichotomy that you run, because if you're too confident and that comes out too strong, that comes out as high ego. So you have to be able to tone your ego down. And that leads me into my third most important quality is understanding that ego is the enemy. When
Mhm.
you notice your ego is driving your decisions, almost always you are not making good decisions, or you're making decisions that have negative impact on people and will come back to hurt you. So those are the three big, and there's lots of other character traits of great leaders. When I'm coaching or looking for leaders to step into positions, do they take extreme ownership? B, are they someone who has a lot of confidence but a low ego? And C, are they aware of their ego being the enemy and when they're operating in that mode?
Right. So it leads me to my next question, is about that, that leading without the ego and leading with more of a kindness kind of
Yeah.
approach and being able to really, prop up the people that you have working for you.
Yeah. Well, this is actually one of the mottos I have in my life, and one of the mottos I build a lot of my training and coaching programs around is that love and kindness is actually the source of power and strength. I think our society and our culture, we've been raised around this sort of bro culture, right? This like hustle idea. And what it does, it builds a sense of I'm not good enough. It builds a sense of comparison. It builds walls when you're in this hustle, bro, like ultra drive driven culture. Now, the reality, in my opinion, is you need to make sure that you're leveraging love and kindness as a source of power and strength. And I think it's a dichotomy that sometimes people don't understand how powerful it can be. When you are practicing love and kindness, it becomes this ultra strength that you can have with people because of the fact that true leaders, what they do is they make people feel like they matter. So if I make someone on my team feel like they matter, what are they going to do in return? They're going to make me feel like they matter. And just like love doesn't mean you do everything for everyone at any time. That's not love, actually. That's almost the opposite. What love means is that I'm going to look at someone and see them as a human being, carry an element of empathy, and I'm going to do things that I know are going to help them in their journey, their goals, their life. That's love. And if you do that properly, it becomes this massive source of power and strength that you can operate within. So,
Right. One of the things that when I've talked to a lot of folks that have, gone on to lead their own teams or open up their own companies, they feel like, there's so much they have to do and they start getting bogged down with things. What are some of those things that people can do to kind of help allow them to, put some of those.
Perfect. I just read an amazing book called Who Not How by Benjamin Hardy, and we just interviewed him. Just truly amazing individual. And his book, Who Not How, had a major impact on me. For most team leaders, when they build and they grow, the reality is that they are doing things they should not be doing, and they're missing a who, meaning someone in their life that should be doing things that they're currently doing, who can do them better and faster and in a way that's more impactful. So the first question, if you're building a team out there, if you're operating, you feel overwhelmed, almost always you're missing a who in your life. You're missing someone that can provide these keys that allow you to not just double what you're doing, but go 10x to what you're doing. And for most of us, fear holds us back from adding a who, right? I don't know who to find. I don't know how to hire them. I don't know how to interview them. I don't know what to pay them, right? We have all these fears that come up, but the reality, the right who that enters your life, all those fears will just go away because of the fact that they're the right person. And sometimes it does take some trial and error to find the right person. It doesn't happen overnight, maybe. But once you find that who that can take away all the stress and overwhelm that you currently have, it will allow you to really excel and really get to another level in your business.
Right. Would you suggest for people that are, in that process and it's just they're so bogged down to really kind of track every minute of their day to see exactly what's going on throughout their day to be able to paint a full picture of the person they're looking for?
Yeah. And so my advice is actually not track it by minutes, but track it by what you're doing in the sense of is a great tactic people out there forming teams can do. Take, the big presentation papers you can buy at Staples, right?
Oh, yeah.
And you get those and you put 5 up on the wall of your office Monday through Friday. And every day you write down your entire to-do list on Monday. And not just the big, I need to show homes. You write down, I need to schedule them, confirm it with the client, pick up keys. You write down everything. And that's why you need the big pieces of paper, because we often write down the big things like show homes to Jim Smith. No, there's 30 things that have to happen with that. And that's all you do for a week. You don't worry about anything else. You just write out your big to-do list. And then throughout the day, you double check and say, oh, I got to add more to it. At the end of the week, you take 2 highlighters. The first highlighter is everything you should be doing and want to do, right? Okay, I should go on this listing appointment. I should go to the closing. I should negotiate the home inspection, right? Everything else, then you highlight who, an admin, an operations manager, an outside salesperson, you name it, right? You highlight who could do the other things, and that becomes your job description. That becomes everything that guides you on who you should add into your business. So it's a really great tool and tactic you can use that it'll scare you probably how much you do in a day.
Right. Yeah. And I really like that, it's vitally important to make sure that you put every step of something so you can
Right.
see that even in like those big picture things, there's probably 75% of the steps
Yeah,
somebody else can take care of for you.
exactly. Just like really quickly, like go to a listing appointment at 123 Main Street. Well, that's not what you have to do. That's just the end result of the 30 things you need to do to get ready for that appointment, right?
Right.
So
Yeah. Tell me about the 6 a.m.ers because am a big fan and I have a feeling it's one of those things that I am a big believer in too is the morning routine.
yeah. Well, so the six hammers, it's an amazing 5,000 plus people have joined it over the last 2.5 years or so. So March of 2020, it's hard to remember back then. The pandemic hit, and we all went into work from home mode, and I'm sure I'm like everyone. I was binge watching Netflix. We would do Zoom happy hours at 4 o'clock. Your first Zoom meeting didn't start till 9, but you didn't have to send kids to school or wake up to go to the gym anymore because you couldn't. And my
Right.
life became very out of control business wise. At that time, we had no idea what was going to happen, right? I mean, it seemed like the economy, we couldn't show a home. Like, how are we going to sell a house? And we all figured it out as time unfolded. But I was in a mode where I was very, very out of control. Prior to that in my life, I had gotten divorced in 2017. And one of my best friends, Jake Dreyfus, and I started a group called the 5 Amers. And it was at 5 a.m. and we woke up. A lot of it modeled after Jocko Willenick. Anyways, Jake moved to Colorado. The group, we just stopped doing it after a couple of years. And but the mindset and the original idea, I'd already done something similar. So in the pandemic in April 2020, I sent an email to my office and said, I'm waking up at 6 a.m. I'm going to start this group, the 6 a.m.ers. Here's what we're going to read a book, wake up Tuesdays and Thursdays, get on a Zoom call. Monday, Wednesday, Friday, I'm going to send you a question of the day to answer. We're going to create a one-word intention or goal for the month. And we're just going to wake up and create a community, be positive and happy and healthy together. And that's how it started. And it started with probably about 50 people. And to make a long story short, over the years, it's just grown into this beautiful community of people. We have two groups now. We have a West Coast group and an East Coast group, so people can join either group. So if you're in the Mountain or Central Time Zone, and every morning, this morning I interviewed an economist and who also was battling cancer. I mean, so it's really not about real estate. It's really about positivity and happiness. And a concept that we preach in the group now that it's sort of, we no longer have the pandemic. A concept we preach is how to wake up and be what we call healthy selfish. I actually have a wristband with it to remind me to be like
Oh
healthy.
yeah.
And the reality is that we all know, for most of us, we know what we need to do to be healthy, right? We know we should. And it's different for everyone. Not everyone wants to go to the gym, but maybe it's reading or gratitude journaling or meditation or whatever it might be. We know what to do it. But most of us wake up and what is the very first thing we do? We grab our cell phone, which, by the way, is within arm's length of us. And we go into what I call the three-headed devil: email, text, social media. Text brings immediate issues and challenges and problems. Email brings procrastination, things we need to do, things that are stressing us out. And social media brings comparison. I'm not good enough. Look at all the things other people are doing that I'm not doing, etc. And so we all start our day in this mode of stress and anxiety, overwhelm, all caused usually by our cell phone. And what we try to preach within the 6 Amers, we want you to start your day with positivity, with doing things that are healthy and selfish, maybe, but it's the old oxygen mask first, right? I'm in a plane. Put your mask on first so you can be good. So then when you show up to other people, you're at your best. And for most realtors, we try to be all things, all people at all times. And what it does, it causes us to be really, really unhappy and unhealthy. And a lot of us aren't selfish enough around our health. Now, for someone like me, 7 a.m. and on, my day is not my day. It's other people's days, my kids, my agents, my company, etc. Right? That's gone. And when I get home, it's hard to be go to the gym at 6:30, 7 o'clock at night, picking up, running kids everywhere, etc. So my window is at really it's like a little before 6, but that's my window of time to be selfish. No one's awake. No one's doing anything. No one's asking for anything. And it's a beautiful thing because we've created a community of like-minded people who are all after, being happy, healthy. And really, we have one rule in the group, and that's to have fun. So it's great because now, it is a private group we have currently within Compass. But publicly, I have an Instagram page, which we put all kinds of meditations, motivation, mindset quotes, and I also put out our first season of the podcast as well. So you can listen to some amazing interviews with people like Larry Kendall, who created Ninja Selling, or Lynn Twist. A lot of authors are on there as well. So it's a really awesome group, and there's a lot of stuff that's out there publicly that people could consume and gain some of that positivity as well.
Right. And just wrapping up, I think the key, to be a great leader, you have to be able to focus on yourself a little bit too. You can't to have that help, the happiness, or you're going to be so stressed out and so burned out.
Yeah. Well, and I think it's a hard lesson that I've learned, and that I learn every day, is that we can't make other people happy. We can only make ourselves happy. And it's a concept I call being the light. Don't try to give the light. And a lot of us, we run around and we're just trying to make other people happy. And the stark reality is we just can't. It's an impossible goal that we will never achieve. And that is a really challenging concept for some of us to accept. But the reality is we can make ourselves happy. And in the process of making ourselves happy, there is a chance that other people will become happy as a result.
Yeah. Awesome. Well, I know you got a jet out for your next appointment, so I really do appreciate you taking the time to talk with us today.
I've loved it. It was really enjoyable, and I really appreciate you having me on.
I really want to thank Skye for joining us today. There was so much packed into a 20-minute conversation that I highly recommend checking out his 6amers podcast to hear more. A link is in the episode description. So once again, if you think you or someone else on your team has an incredible story or tip to share with our community, send us a message at feedback@smartagents.com. Well, that wraps things up for this episode, but remember, follow the show wherever you listen to podcasts, and make sure to subscribe to the Smart Agents YouTube channel. Again, I'm Michael Walter, and we'll see you on the next episode.